There are moments in the history of science where silence becomes louder than any explosion. Where the absence of a signal carries more meaning than 1,000 discoveries combined. And this is one of those moments. It wasn't an asteroid. It wasn't a dying star. It wasn't a newborn galaxy radiating its first breath of light into the cosmos. No, the thing that set off the alarm was silence itself. The James Webb Space Telescope, our crown jewel of exploration, a machine orbiting 1,000,000 miles from Earth and peering deeper into the universe than any human creation before, wasn't supposed to find anything unusual in this particular survey. It was gazing into a region we had mapped as empty, a forgotten gap between galaxies, a blind spot in the cosmic web. A place the textbooks had long ago declared lifeless, nothing more than a yawning vacuum stretching across billions of light years. But that assumption shattered. Because in the quietest part of the cosmos, Webb found something impossible. It didn't glow. It didn't reflect. It didn't bend light like a black hole. Instead, it devoured it. And then, something even stranger happened. That darkness moved. Not like drifting gas or orbiting planets, but with purpose. With deliberation. As if it knew it was being watched. What came next forced teams of astrophysicists, cosmologists, and mathematicians to abandon entire models of reality. Because what Webb uncovered wasn't a comet or a pulsar, or even a black hole. It was something else. Something that thinks. Something that reacts. And perhaps, something that remembers. This is the story of the James Webb anomaly. An object so unnatural, so terrifying in its behavior, that scientists have begun whispering the unthinkable. What if it's not from our universe at all? It all began during a deep field survey near the Eridanus Supervoid, a vast and almost mythical region of the sky. For decades, astronomers have puzzled over its mysterious cold spots and unnaturally low galaxy density. Some dismissed it as a statistical fluke. Others speculated it might be a scar from the earliest moments after the Big Bang. Webb wasn't there to solve that mystery, it was simply calibrating its infrared sensors for a galaxy mapping project. But what it found was something far more unsettling. Instead of faint galaxies shimmering at the edge of time, instead of cosmic dust or scattered radiation, Webb detected a perfect circle of nothingness. A silence so complete that it seemed less like an absence of matter and more like an absence of reality itself. Picture this. Dropping ink into a still glass of water and watching the water vanish instead. That's what the data showed. It wasn't just void of stars. It was void of awe. Light didn't bend around it. Radiation didn't escape from it. There were no gravitational ripples, no echoes of ancient explosions. Just a circle where the universe seemed to stop. At first, theories flew across research forums. Some thought it might be a previously unknown type of black hole, one operating on principles beyond our current understanding. But the mass calculations didn't fit. Black holes leave fingerprints. X-rays, gamma bursts, gravitational waves. This object left none. It wasn't just dark. It was still. Too still. And then, over several days, the perimeter began to fluctuate. Not like an orbiting planet. Not like a rotating star. But like something breathing. To understand the anomaly better, scientists analyzed the faint distortions in the light around it. What they found was worse than anyone imagined. Those flickers weren't random. They followed a pattern, precise intervals that matched prime numbers. First 2, then 3, then 5, then 7, then 11. This wasn't just existence. This was communication. But the message wasn't carried by radio waves or gamma rays or anything in the electromagnetic spectrum. It was something else entirely, a ripple in spacetime itself. Webb's gyroscopes recorded microscopic shifts that coincided with each pulse, as though the very scaffolding of reality was being nudged. The cosmos wasn't supposed to behave this way. Physics wasn't supposed to allow this. Yet the rhythm was unmistakable, surgical precision, deliberate cadence. Not natural. Not random, but intentional. Some began to wonder if it wasn't alive but aware. Then came the first displacement. 27 days after its discovery, Webb observed the object shift position. But it didn't move. It didn't accelerate like a ship or drift like a comet. It simply blinked, gone one moment, back the next, a fraction of a degree off its original location. This wasn't travel. It was skipping. A strobe light in the and that was terrifying. Because if something can displace itself without leaving a trail, it isn't bound by the speed of light. It isn't bound by time. It's operating on rules we don't even recognize. Quantum theory has a parallel. Entangled particles, which react instantaneously across vast distances. But those are subatomic phenomena. This was an object the size of a moon behaving as though physics was a game it could choose to play, or ignore. When researchers simulated its reappearances, the result was even more chilling. The pattern formed a spiral. And that spiral pointed inward. Toward Earth. By the fourth month of analysis, the conversation shifted. No longer were scientists asking what the object was. They were asking whether it was thinking. Geometric patterns around the anomaly began to stabilize into fractals, repeating, evolving shapes that resembled biological systems. Not organs. Not bones. But neural pathways. And here's the most unnerving part. The longer Webb observed, the more those patterns change. They adapted. They corrected themselves in real time. As if the object was learning how to be observed. Scientists gave this phenomenon a name, responsive geometry. Some speculated it might be a dimensional antenna, anchoring itself in place while it reached beyond our universe. Others whispered darker theories. Perhaps it wasn't designed to travel at all, but to wait. When an experimental AI model was fed the anomaly's data, its algorithms broke down. The system froze, looped, and finally produced a single word in its error log. Recognized. It wasn't a discovery. It was a reply. Weeks later, another layer of the mystery revealed itself. Webb detected not the object, but the space around it shifting. A faint background radiation, synchronized with the anomaly's pulses, emerged. At first, it seemed like static. But analysis showed harmonics layered within it, nested intervals structured like musical chords. Scientists nicknamed it the Song of the Void. But others refused to romanticize it. Generating such harmonics by accident is almost impossible. This wasn't random emission. This was engineered. Worse still, the harmonics weren't stable. They changed when Webb adjusted its position. The signal was interactive. It wasn't broadcasting. It was listening. A team of mathematicians then uncovered something even more unsettling. Hidden in the timing of the pulses was an embedded constant, the Ulam prime spiral. A mysterious configuration of prime numbers that has long fascinated number theorists for its strange resonance with nature. But here it was, repeated deliberately. Not an accident. A message. A universal language written in the mathematics of existence itself. When researchers plotted the sequence in 3 dimensions, it formed a helix. Not just any helix, but one nearly identical to the double helix of human DNA. And when the intervals between pulses were analyzed, they matched the codons of our own genetic structure. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. It meant that whatever was out there knew us. After that, the silence on Earth began. Public data streams were delayed. Observatory logs began vanishing. Scientists dropped from projects without explanation. Press releases grew vague, bureaucratic, evasive. Leaks claimed emergency meetings had been held between NASA, the ESA, and private entities like SpaceX. The fear wasn't that the object was coming. The fear was that it might already be here. And then, the final act. On the 48th day of targeted observation, just before Webb was scheduled to switch to another region of space, the anomaly vanished. Its pulses stopped. The distortions disappeared. Static. But before silence consumed it, Webb captured one final image. It wasn't a void. It wasn't a distortion. It was a shape. Symmetrical, angular. A sigil floating in space. Nested triangles, circles, lines repeating into infinity. It lasted 3 frames. Then it was gone. Since then, the anomaly has never returned. Or perhaps, it never left. So what did James Webb truly see out there? A watcher in the dark? A probe, waiting for us to notice? A mirror held up to our own existence? The terrifying truth is this: the deeper we stare into the void, the more the void seems to stare back. What we once thought was an empty canvas may in fact be a mirror. And something, on the other side, may have finally noticed us. James Webb didn't just capture data. It opened a door. And whatever waits beyond it will not just change our science. It will change us.